shop in there so that you can order past months stencils as long as they're available. So that's a great thing. Now here's the other stencil that I'll be featuring today. So there's the sunflower floral stencil, and I'm going to be using these gorgeous flowers on the back. Can anyone tell me what they are? Are they pansies? They kind of look like it, I think, which kind of come in all sorts of different colours. Yeah, I know, the sunflower. Someone just mentioned the sunflower. They are great. And then the other one that I'm going to use, whoops, trying to fly through these comments here to see them all. And so, yes, someone said she didn't know that you could purchase past months. If you're in the Stencil of the Month Club via the stencilofthemonthclub.com, there's a little shop in there, you can buy past months, correct. So this one's called the You Have My Heart stencil set. So you have my whole heart and then for my whole life. So isn't that gorgeous? Great for engagement themed, bridal showers, or wedding decor. So that's what we're going with today. Here's a little example how you could use this as a 2-sign set that they put on here with the little chalkboard style thing. Whoops, just trying to swish these comments from my phone so I can see them here. Thank you guys so much for sharing. If you've got friends who are DIYers or love to create signs or paint furniture or just want to learn some stenciling techniques, please go ahead and hit the share button and you'll jump right back here in the live. You won't miss a thing. Wow, Jessica says, I have 5 weddings I have to go to. That's a lot. Oh my goodness. And during this COVID season, I know that, weddings in Australia even have been reduced to like you can only have your family members there, and so 10 people limit or something, which is fairly crazy. So I know there's people who have postponed weddings. I'm trying to get this out of the packet here. People who have postponed their weddings till after COVID, and people who have just gone ahead and got married anyway. So, all right, so the board I'm using today, I even put the measurements for that in the description of the live here, and the measurements of the board that I'm using, it's 23.5 inches. I did it in inches just for you guys, even though I work in centimetres, just thought I'd be nice. So 23.5 inches by 11.25 across this way. Now, I was kind of thinking, do I do it acrosswise or do I do it up and down? But I think I'll do the up and down look. I really do like that look. So all I've done to prep my board, and I may just tweak it a little bit more, is I have used a bit of a stain over that, and then I've also done a little bit of dry brushing. You might not notice but if you look very closely, I've used a grey colour, little lamb, to just put some dry brushing across there, kind of create a bit of a driftwood look. But I'm thinking I need a few more flecks of white there, but I can show you that really quickly. Oops. What's the name of the new flowers? So let me just point you down here so we can see. These floral stencil set is called Sunflower Floral Set. It's up in the description of the live. So it comes with both the sunflowers and the other pansies, I'm going to call them, until someone corrects me. Let me see in my comments here. Oops. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for your comments. Someone said, what's the name of the new flowers? Yes, Jessica says, I see the sun isn't blinding you today. It is not sunny here today. That's correct. Someone else has flooding. Oh dear, guys. It's a drama. All right, so I've got my board sort of ready, but I'm thinking I'd love to add just a little touch of some more light pale colour. So I'm just going to use a sort of a putty colour, and I'm going to just drag my brush along and show you how I do the dry brushing technique. I'm just using a little flat kind of a brush, dipping it in to the sides of my bottle, and I'm just using a catalogue. As you can see, I usually use newspaper, or out of newspaper today, to dry off my brush, and then what I do is just drag it across the surface, pressing really gently at first until, if I don't see enough paint going on, then I'll add some more. Let me see if I can just make this a little bit more visible for you. So you want to dry off the brush as much as possible because you don't want great big chunks going on, but I'm just dragging that across there. I love to do this technique. Let me see, can you see that a little better now? wish I had my husband here to do camera so we could zoom in. He's busy lately. All right, so there we go. See how it just creates that sort of a fake barnwood, driftwood kind of a look. So I'm just adding a little bit so you can see that difference there. I did the dry brushing using a grey colour, but I think if I just do a little bit of a pop of a lighter colour, it gives it more of a textured look. So here we go again, just simply dragging the brush across, and I can see a little bit more. The heavier you press, the more paint goes on, obviously. So, but you don't want to press too hard at first because you don't want great big streaks coming across. You just want that little flecky look there. Nice long strokes too. You don't want to stop start in the middle of your board. So let me show you again a little closer. And if you see, oops, just on the edges here, you may not be able to see that, it comes on a little more too. There we go. It sort of highlights these edge bits. Drying your brush off as much as possible. That's what dry brushing techniques do. That helps it. Yeah, it's really subtle, as someone just mentioned. Now, if you wanted to, you could do the sides of your board along here as well, just to kind of make it a little bit more continuity. Oops, it's a little bit tricky to do this so that you can see and that I can see too. So I'll just do that really quickly. And the stencils we're working on today, I've put them both in the description of the live. And as Essential Stencil has just mentioned in their comment there, please feel free to sprinkle the love and share the video around with your friends, family, anyone you know who loves a bit of DIY. Okay, so that was just using a little fusion colour called Putty that's just an acrylic, and it's kind of like a putty colour. So it's not white, but it's bright enough to kind of make that driftwoody look. How's that for a background? So this would be a great sign for a wedding decor, you know, in a farmhouse style or country wedding or anything really. All right, so this is the stencil. If you missed it earlier, the stencil set is called Sunflower Floral Set. It comes with this gorgeous, huge sunflowers, which would also look fantastic on this board. You could do, starting from the bottom going up. I'm going to use the other flowers, which I'm going to call pansies. Did anyone tell me what they are yet? I'm just going to call them pansies. I have no idea. I'm so not a gardener. I'm not a flower person. Have no idea. Yeah, the sunflower is really pretty. Okay, I'm trying to do this upside down so that you guys can see it. But it's around about the same size as the width of the board that I mentioned, which was, I think I said 11¼ inches. So I'm going to start sort of at the base here, then I'm going to add and grow the stencil up this way. Now, to stencil that, I think that I would like to use a beautiful pinkish, soft pink colour, peony. Now, if you were doing wedding themed decor, you could easily, quite easily, because these little flowers look like they could just be any colour. Oh gosh, now I can't open my jar. There we go. Do you know that technique? Slamming the lid down. Yeah, someone just said dry brushing seems to bring out the grain of the wood. It actually creates a fake grain, if you, so to speak. So it creates a bit of what looks like a grain, but you do follow the grain so that you're actually making it look like it's grain. Okay, so I'm going to use my ordinary furniture painting brush with a little rubber band tied to the tip of it, just to make those bristles a little bit more stencil brush-like. And using a clean paper, I'm using this beautiful pretty pink colour. It's called Peony. See, because we're using flowers, I thought I'd use a peony colour. Do you say peony or peony? Of course, we don't have pronunciation on the Facebook Lives. I tossed over doing a brighter pink, this English rose colour. but I think we'll start with this because it will almost turn out a bit more white, and the pigment in this one is not as big a coverage. Now you could, if you were worried about the stencil moving, you can tape it down with painter's tape. Try not to use masking tape or scotch tape or something because it could stick to your paint and tear your paint or stain off or whatever. All right, so just using my stencil brush, I've actually offloaded as much as I can onto my paper, and then I'm going to, so hardly anything on the end of the brush. In fact, it's quite dry. I hardly have anything on my hand. That was a bad example. All right, so here we go. I'm just going to do a little swishing movement. And like I said, this is such a pale pink that it probably will throw more white when we have got it on the board. And you can always go over it again. And I'm just going to go ahead and do all the leaves, all the things. But again, you could, tape off areas that you don't want to have in certain colours and then do those later. So you could do all your leaves green if you wanted to. And I'm just doing a swirling motion as opposed to a stippling like that, because as you can see, once I've offloaded the brush with all the paint, it's not showing up as much with the stippling as it is with just a little gentle swirl around, sort of mushing it, swirling it gently to create your colour. Kathy says, I love peonies and hydrangeas. Yeah. There you go. There is another stencil, but I'm not sure if we're out of stock of that other one. It's roses and, oops, it was in my bag. Roses, we may be out of stock of this one at the moment, but roses and it could be peonies. There's the roses, or maybe they're just a different type of rose. I don't know, can you tell? They kind of look like peonies to me. All right, so here we go. I'm going to get these little odd leaves at the end here as well. I could just hear a knock on my door. I don't know if that's a courier. Hoping someone else will get it. Okay. So we've got the leaves. And these little special circles, I'm not sure what they are, but they make it look pretty, hey? Maybe raindrops. So it's autumn right now here in Australia, but we are getting some nice cooler weather, ready for winter. Hoping that this colour will stand out against that background of the driftwoody tones. You'll be able to see that there. There we go, just making sure I'm looking in. Whoops, I'm missing some comments. If you've got any questions about stenciling, please jump in. Someone else says they haven't used this stencils yet. Yeah, so oops, I think I had a little bit too much on my brush right then, which is a problem. Didn't offload it properly, which can often cause bleeding under the stencil, which is why I try and offload as much as I can. So offloading on the magazine or paper. Okay, how are you guys? Whoops. Oh, Someone's asked something and I want to know what that was. Oops, I've missed some questions. All right, it's hard to concentrate on actually stenciling and then looking at the questions again to see who's asked a question or commented. Carrie says it's supposed to be summer in North Carolina, but it's 40 degrees Fahrenheit, obviously, because 40 degrees Celsius, we work in Celsius here. To me, that's a really hot day, but in Fahrenheit, that's quite cold. All right, we've almost finished our beautiful flowers. Whoops, didn't offload enough. So we'll just see when I finish this how much I've actually allowed to bleed through the stencil. And again, you can always place the stencil down and create a heavier look. It looks to me like some of the florals are actually, like the paint is actually soaking in and really being taken into the grain. And so I'm just going to do a little bit of pouncing on those, just the flower bits. See how that works out. It also creates a bit of a textured look, if you can see that. See how the flowers, I'm just pouncing on those, and they're a little bit, so it makes it a little bit heavier just in that area. But again, you could just simply replace your stencil, place it on again after looking to see if it's worked all right. Sorry about the banging. And go over a second coat very easily. All right, so there's our first coat of that stencil, ready to have a little look. And we didn't do too bad. I can't see anywhere where it's really bled through. So just showing you a closer look of that. So it's a great floral background, and so you can see some parts are heavier than others. You can just really play with that as much as you want and create heavy or thicker. And it does look a little white, but it is actually a really soft pink. So what I'd like to do now is continue the pattern up. And so I'm going to just place that round about, where should we go? It's a bit tricky. I may even, let's see, I like the finish of it up here. I'm going to make it come off the board, but I'm seeing around here, I want to start this stem, and I'm going to tape off some areas. Right here, if you look underneath this section, I've got some flower there. I don't want to cover over that flower with these leaves, so what I'm going to do is to tape that off. And I'm going to let this come off the board. Actually, I could just pop it down a little bit further. Okay. So I'm going to tape off right about here so that I don't get these leaves in. Oops, scrolling through your comments here. Penny's waiting for the rose one to arrive. Just redid a cabinet and want to put them on the door. These guys are perfect for stenciling over your furniture pieces. Really, really beautiful. All right, so I'm just covering up and just going to let that stem come out as if it's behind the other flowers there. And I think that's all I need to do. This one's not covered. This one's not covered. That one doesn't matter so much because it's got that little leaf there. Let's see. I might just tape that one off and leave that flower alone. There we go. And the rest of it, and this is going to come off the board slightly, but that's okay. It's just sort of like you're repeating a pattern somewhere. So again, I'm not going to do this leaf. Hopefully I'll remember that. Karen's just joined us. Good evening. What are you making? So you're obviously from the other side of the world. I'm from Australia where it's morning, but good evening, my American and Canadian friends. I'm creating sort of like a wedding decor board, and we are putting on some beautiful pastel pink colour, which kind of looks white at a distance, but it is pink. And we're creating a background for another stencil that I'll show you in just a minute. Creating another background for sort of a wedding decor theme. So the links to both of the stencil sets that I'm using are in the description of this live. And Yeah, you could actually create a 3D effect, someone said, with the shadowing. You will get 10% off if you use my code, so don't forget to use that. The code is iRestoreStuff, so 10% off all your stencil orders from Essential Stencil using code iRestoreStuff at the checkout. Very easy. And in fact, if you use any of the links that we've got in the description of this live, it should just add that 10% off, take that 10% off for you directly at the checkout. You don't have to type in the code or anything. Just look for your 10%. If you don't get it, use the code iRestoreStuff, because that's the name of my furniture painting business. I love to take old pieces of furniture, bring them back to life again with a bit of paint and decor, decorating. And like I said before, these floral stencils are perfect for adding onto furniture, on the fronts of cupboards, or for example on the top of a coffee table, imagine that, or a step stool or something like that. So really there's so many ideas with the Essential Stencils, and even their wording stencils with sayings and phrases I've used on furniture before too, so great ideas that they come up with. And in the Stencil of the Month Club there's even more, so if you haven't joined there yet, we'll get to see very soon. What's the next month? March, April, May, June. You'll get to see the June stencils really soon and what they are going to be for the Stencil of the Month Club. Can't wait to see those. In fact, I am expecting a courier today to deliver some more. Has anyone seen the other new stencils? The patriotic ones, and there's some new summer stencils in there. So, of course, here in Australia, we don't all wave the American flag, but you know what? I am married to American, so that makes it all right. I can do some American stencils for my American family. In fact, my father-in-law, who's American, lives just down the road from us. Oh, if you go on my page, you'll see he's recently made a Noah's Ark, built a little Noah's Ark boat with all the animals on it. It's like a puzzle, you put it all together. Amazing. He's almost 80 and still loves to do all the woodwork and all the things, and he's done a lot of things for us around our house, so he's such a handy man. Oh, someone else. Rose says, I'm always amazed watching you stencil with a brush. I just can't get it down. Well, Rose, you can practice. Some people do prefer, though, makeup sponge or a roller, or there's so many other different methods of applying stencils. So you've just got to try what works for you, what works best. Okay, I'm just going to dab these again in the flowered sections, dabbing on a little bit extra paint, just giving it a lovely bit of extra. Someone else said they can't wait to see the June stencils. Yeah, there's a lot of fun stencils out there. Creating some nice little texture on my flowers here. But again, this is going to be used for a background, and I'll show you the signs, the wording that I'm going to place over the top of it in just a minute. I think I've got everything. Alrighty, let's have a look. Taped off those pieces. Oops, looks like I've just got a little smudgy mark right here in this leaf that I was meant to miss. So that's going to look a bit dodgy, but we'll see if we can fix it. It may not look too bad. Let me just see. All right, again, here I am trying to be a good stenciler and clean off my stencil as we use it so that it can be used again and again. So the sooner you wipe off the paint, the easier it is, obviously, but oops. Sometimes I do leave it a bit long and the paint dries on there. So if you're not happy with the finish and you think it needs more paint on there, if you want it a little bit heavier, just reposition your stencil over the top of that. It's pretty much dry right now because we used a dry brush. Here's my little error that I was talking about. Maybe I could just make it one of these little leaf things. What do you think? See how we can easily fix mistakes, guys? Now I've made a mess here, just cleaning it up. Kind of got to wash both sides of the stencil because it leaks through to the other side. All right, just while we've got it here, let me find a little leaf that I can make this into. There we go, one of those things. Ta-da! And there we have it. All fixed, no problemo. Yep, someone else is excited to use the 4th of July. Yeah, it does look, yep. There's people saying that it does look like a great wedding decor. You could even leave it just like that without anything on top of it for a number of things. But just think of all the lovely wording that you could put on top of that for... Whoop. If only I had my sink handy, I could rinse out my cloth again. Okay, I think we're organised. So that's the sunflower floral set. Now we're going to place on top of that our other stencil, which is it's called the You Have My Heart stencil set. And it comes in 2 stencils. You Have My Whole Heart is the first one. And then For My Whole Life. So what we're going to do, oh guys, you're so fast in your comments here, I can't keep up. Don't forget, I have mentioned in the description that we always pick a winner, 3 winners actually, 3 people, random commenters, who will win at the end of this live some Essential Stencil products. And when I announce the winners, you'll just have to email Essential Stencil at support@essentialstencil.com to claim your prize. So don't go anywhere. All right, so we've got For My Whole Life, and the other one is with You Have My Whole Heart. So I'm going to position those both on the same sign. You could create 2 different signs if you wanted to, but I'm going to place these both here over the flowers, and I'm going to use a black paint. So what I need to do first is get this brush in the water so that it's not drying out on the brush. Look after your brushes, they'll last a very long time. Okay, there's my offloading paper. Oops. Supermarket catalogues, they come in handy for something. All right, just dipping a little bit of coal black. It's a black fusion mineral paint, just an acrylic based paint. And I need to offload it, but first I haven't even positioned my stencils yet, so I need to do that because I can't just do this very randomly. I'd like it to be sort of evenly placed across here. So You Have My Whole Heart. Oh guys, this is a little tricky. Okay, well as long as I've got it sort of equal here and here, I think I should be right. Of course I'm going to have to take one out. I think we're placed around about right. So I'm looking at this space here, and this space here. So they do need to come a little bit more in if I want them to sort of be centered top and bottom, if you know what I mean. And you could obviously get your measuring tapes out, do a little measuring and make it all just perfect. Okay, looking at the space. And you could even space them further and put this right at the top and this right at the bottom. Just wanted to have a little bit of space. Spacing's a good thing for design. So I like that it's got a little bit of space on the edges. And I think we're okay here, maybe a little bit up further here. And I'll have to measure this one again. But what I might do is put a little bit of tape at the sides, around about where this second one has to go. Actually, I'll do it right here. I'm making a little marking so that when I do my second stencil, this one here. I'll do the top one first. When I do the second one, I know exactly where it needs to be. So I'm making a little line mark here on this side and a little mark here on this side. There's my flat bit of tape. So I know exactly where to go up to. All right, this is where this one's going to be. I'll remove this now and put it aside and just work on this piece, taping it down so that I've got it all stuck well. Okay, now I've got my brush offloaded. I'm not sure if there's any paint left on there now. I mean, I did dry it off. So just again, using a black so that it stands out and really contrasts and makes it pop. So I'm just doing some little swirly lines here. The black's going to have a lot better coverage than a white, so it should just cover right over those flowers and any parts that the flower is on. Okay, adding a little bit more paint now. The only reason I'm trying to lift it is to help you to see a little better, but I'm not sure if that's helping or not. There we go. So those of you who might do sign making for a living, and you know that's your business, just reminding you again, if you're new to watching me here on the lives, I just add a bit of a rubber band around the end or the tip of a furniture painting brush to just give the bristles a little bit more togetherness, shall we call it. Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining. If you've just joined, I'm just using, someone just asked what kind of wood am I using this time. I'm using some pine boards that are all joined together in 3 and 3 little boards together. You could use any boards you like. I've got the measurements actually of what the board is that I'm using today. I know it's 11 1/4 that way, 23 1/2 I think, or 24 1/2 long. All right, that's not too bad. I can still see a little bit of the white, but if I needed to, again, we can always just reposition the stencil and do a second coat. Okay, here's our brush script. Beautiful words. Love the font being used here. It's very, very elegant, this part. Yeah, I think we do have a bit of the white showing through, but it's good enough for me to show you as the example, and then I can go over it again later if I need to. Someone said, don't know how you can stencil upside down. That's funny. I guess I just am not reading the words, I'm just pretending it's a shape. It just probably makes a difference. All right. Offloading the brush as much as we can so we don't get bleeding under. I'd love to see if you have not stenciled before, if not even tried stenciling but you love watching these lives, or maybe it's the first time here today, just let me know in the comments if it's your first time watching, or if you've never stenciled before and you'd love to learn. Let me know if there's anyone here who hasn't stenciled already. And if you do want to do stenciling, every week we have a live, every weekday there's a live that goes here on the Essential Stencil page, showing you all their ambassadors' techniques of stenciling, lots of useful tips and tricks. There we go, I think we're done. Let's see how that turned out. Yep, I'm happy with that. All right, so there's our first one. Let's see, you can see that there. You have my whole heart. Yeah, it stands out a little bit. Probably you could do a lighter colour on these flowers if you wanted it to stand out or pop a bit more. Let's get this bottom one on. So remember I put these 2 pieces of tape here where I had slid this one underneath to get my measurements right for the 2 of them. And let me just pop this down a little bit so you can see that. Maybe that's a bit better. And guys, just remember that we have some giveaways at the end of this. So don't go anywhere. We're going to pick 3 winners from your random comments. They're not random. I just meant that you're doing some great comments. My picking is going to be random though. All right, where can I put my stencil? Okay, so getting another little bit of brush. I have to move my thing down, but you know what I'm doing here is offloading that. So here is where I lined up that other, the other stencil. So I'm placing it exactly where I had put my little tape markers so that I know. Now I'm going to put that over there to keep it firmly in place, just making sure my sides are all even. So there we go. That's how I measured it. If you missed that, you can just check the replay and see how I lined them up so that they're kind of got even spacing between the 2 sets of words. Now obviously you could make these 2 different stencils, this one and this one, into 2 completely separate signs and have them displayed at anything, a wedding. You could just give it for a wedding gift. You could use it for Valentine's or engagement. Do you guys have engagement parties in the States? I know in Australia engagement parties are a thing. I'm not sure so much in the States. Someone said that they tried stenciling with something and got some terrible bleeding through. So bleeding through means there's probably too much paint on the brush. So you really have to make sure that there's hardly any paint on the brush. Then you can swirl it, because if I was swirling and I just left all that paint on the brush and I didn't offload it here, there would be a lot of bleeding through underneath. Paint leaking through underneath the stencil mylar. Okay, who's got... I'm trying to find out if there's anyone who's saying that they've never stenciled before. Susan says she's late. That's, oh yeah, you don't have to worry about that. We can always catch the replay. Oh, I'm so glad you like this. That's awesome. Yep, lining up the stencils. Great tips. That's awesome, guys. Thank you so much for your comments. Whoop. Now, did I offload enough? Probably not. Looks like I've made a big splodge there. So this black, I can still see some of those, some of the white coming through, and I probably could just do with a little bit more, like a second coat of this black going over. This little tail coming off here. Need to get that right in there. Okay, and the reason I can do all that swishing and swirling is because I've offloaded the brush and I've got hardly any on here. So if I was to brush this somewhere now, there's see how it's not coming off on the paper? But if I swish and swirl, I'll get a little bit of stenciling on there. So that's how we do that without getting the bleed through. All right, let's have a look at this. See how it looks. And again, I think I will go over that once we finish the live here. But yeah, that's looking great, nice and crisp. But if I wanted it to pop out more, if I bring this up really super close, you can see that through the large letters of life, you can still see a little bit of the floral behind it. So if I want to make that more solid and not so opaque, I can do a second coat, which I will probably do on this. So there you go, there's our sign for today. Let me just slowly pan up here. There we go. There's our sign for today. How's that? Oh, it's a bit tricky trying to hold it up, but yeah, you can see that background there. You have my whole heart for my whole life.